That ain't saying a lot, though.
It's not saying the most.
That may be true, too.
I disagree, by the way. Since Scorpion, I think CLB is the best album. CLB was pretty good. Honestly, Her Loss is pretty good as well. Honestly, Nevermind is Honestly Nevermind. This album I haven't rated yet, though.
That may be true, too. This album, man. Hello.
He got
This album was not for the people who wanted lyrics on Drake's album. That's a fact. Yachty lied. If Yachty says this album had him hearing the best verses from Drake he's ever heard, he needs to stop listening to Drake. Because we don't need you saying that these are the best to inspire. No, these weren't the best. This was Drake trying a lot of different flows and pockets, but even Drake knows his lyrical bag. Now, of course, Drake is always going to be witty. Drake is always going to be witty. He's always going to be slick. He's always like, that's Drake. But when I heard Yachty, which by the way, I don't know if you guys know what he's referenced it. Lil Yachty talks Drake album. Let me see. He was talking about it. He was talking about it on his he was best verse. He was talking about it on his podcast. Let me see if I can find it. And what he said, I ain't gonna lie, I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Hopefully it's timestamped. Oh my God, we gotta find the actual thing. Provides details. Did not give no timestamp though. Fuck, what's the timestamp on this?
Oh,
maybe it's
writer. I can just go make some shit up. I can go create a scenario. I can create a story. I can make a song about a girl I never.
Okay, here. I think this. Let me stop it there. That was an amazing quote by Yachty, and I believe that wholeheartedly. And this is why I love Drake. Right? Drake is gonna make music about what's inspiring him at the moment, right? Where his life is at, and I guess this is where this album kind of. It feels empty and it feels like it's just keeping up with the times because I can't tell you what's been going on in Drake's life because of what I've heard on this album. We know he's had issues with people. We've wondered about certain relationships. He kind of indirectly addressed it, like the Rihanna stuff. But we don't know what's going on in Drake's life. He's the biggest artist, right? He could do whatever he wants. But we don't, and maybe he's asking too much, but we don't know what the fuck is going on with him anymore. I don't feel like I do. Like, I don't listen to this album and be like, yo, this is where he's at in his life. And I felt like I've been on a journey with him and I've connected. It's even to Scorpion. I think Scorpion was the last album I'm like, yeah, like journey-wise, I get where he was at. I knew how he was going to go into that album, especially with the Kanye shit. A lot of shit, like he had a kid, a lot of things going on in his life, and he put that in a fucking record, on an album that was so amazing. Certified Lover Boy, I was like, okay, this is probably more of a theme album. That's why I thought it was a theme album. But it was a little bit different. Honestly, Nevermind, he described it himself as a vibe. Right? He said, yo, this is just my new little bop for the, you know what I mean? He on some European shit. Now, then he did Her Loss, which I'm like, all right, that's just a collab. You can't really think nothing of that. But then Fall the Dogs, I'm expecting to get something, and I'm going to be honest with you, I ain't really get anything at all.
Make love, deep love.
Thank you. See, Yachty's speaking exactly what we're thinking. We're hearing Drake tell us about how successful he is and his accolades. We're not hearing him telling us about his actual life. When you get to where Drake is at, what are your new fears? What are your new goals? How do you navigate with women these days? How do you navigate with having a child and dealing with your child's mother and all these things. And again, you know, I think Drake has given us so much of his life through his music that we're probably asking for too much, right? Like, I mean, shit, I've even told y'all that, like, sometimes y'all want to know about my relationships and shit, and I'm like, I'll tell you at times, but sometimes I'm like, come on, relax, you know what I mean? But I listened to this album, I didn't get that. So, you know, I'm playing Yachty, but I'm also reacting. Here's the thing about the journaling aspect. If it's journaling, for all intents and purposes, he created this album while on the road. If Drake had called in that night, remember I told you, we're not going to grill him now. Like, you know, like, we weren't going to ask no gossipy questions. 2 questions I was going to ask is Yachty's influence. Then secondly, I was going to ask, how did you create this project without conceivably living a bunch? Like, you're on road. You're on the road touring. Every night a new city. How could you get inspired to make some of the amazing works you've done before that's always been like a summary of you going through life experiences? By the way, I think that's cap already. When I heard what Yachty said with this, I thought If You're Reading This Is Too Late. It's not If You're Reading This Too Late. If You're Reading This Too Late is his most performative album. That whole album is meant for the club. The whole album is meant to turn up. So that's what he pretty much told us, and then let's go back to Joe Budden.
No. His top 10, I'm sitting here complaining. If he don't make a...
The reason why I said this is fair critique is that I agree. This was meant to be Drake showcasing his talents along newer instrumentals, newer popular flows, showing that Drake is just a like he's an artist that transcends just only the generation that he grew up in. And he's always transcended that generation, right? Drake is a nigga who objectively we could listen to and be like, yo, if this nigga was out in the 90s and rapping like this, we think he'll make it. In the early 2000s, some of his hooks, he definitely make it. The 2010s, he clearly did make it, right? But as we go into the 2020s now, obviously, like, people like me, I think he'll make it in any generation. But I do think that, you know, he is trying new things.
The song, I Am Well Fed, pause.
Bro, it's not hate. It's not hate.
It is.
It's not hate.
Go.
By the way, and again, I think that might as well have solicited a response from Drake. But when I listen to the album, and I know some of y'all be like, yo, you should be upset Drake ain't hit you up. I'm like, I'm gonna be honest with you, Drake. You know, there's many albums that I think Drake may have, you know, or should probably care about what someone like me thinks about that album, right? Be like, yo, hopefully Ak is fucking with it, right? You know what I mean? Like, hopefully Ak's audience is fucking with it because y'all like me, right? I think this album, and this is why I couldn't get no offense, this album was it was definitely more important for the younger audience, which is Kai's audience. As if Kai's audience is fucking with this, yo, Ak, if half of your audience or you fuck with it, it's whatever. But fuck, we got him. I'm gonna be honest with you. So again, I know y'all want me to be upset, but I'm not upset because this album, I think this album and what he tried to do, the validation of a Kai Cenat's audience is way more important than what y'all think. Or I think, honestly. This shit really, like, nigga, I'm thinking this shit is going to be some other stuff. Like, brother, you know, with all due respect, there's a lot of, like, very contemporary shit on here, which, you know, to me, Drake is a whole genre of himself. I wouldn't be listening to, like, some of this stuff if it wasn't Drake rapping it. Right?
Find some niggas your fucking age. Hang out with them. Get some of that sauce.
That's
Are the-
not
are
what
the-
keeps
are
you.
the- are the
No, that's
older
not what
niggas
keeps
buy-
you
are the older
popping.
niggas
Fuck
buying
these
music?
kids.
That's not what keep you popping. And if that's
Exactly.
the game he playing,
Are the
I
old-
gotta play this game.
Are the-
Now, let me try to address this like age gap distinction, right? I seen, by the way, I think who was it? Someone in the industry said, "Yo, Joe Budden trying to shame Drake for trying to keep his music youthful and saying he should grow old and make music for older people is really pathetic and bad advice." I forgot who said it, but somebody said something to that extent. And it kind of does bring up that conversation of what is, as people age in music, and of course we do know the people who stream music the most are usually kids and the youngest demographic. That's why they matter so much. What is age appropriate music? And also, is there a problem if you are constantly adapting to the change in times? Generally, I believe that it's adapt or die. If you think you still in the 90s and you're rapping like the 90s, you're not realizing that by the time the 2000s came in, niggas had to have a good hook. By the time 2007, 2008 came in, like niggas is hitting with auto-tune and all of that. By the time 2012 came in, like it was a mix of both. You got like, you know, like music has changed. If you don't adapt, you usually die off. So I'm kind of like, I'm in limbo when it comes to this conversation because I don't think Drake has to make music for people who are 40 plus. Nor do I think he has to make music for only the kids. I think he's trying to find that happy medium. And
Ice's point.
okay, all right, I'm not going to play the whole thing. We're going to get to what Drake said, but you know, I also agree with that point too. Drake is in a position where I think this is why some of the critique came to him. Drake doesn't necessarily have to follow the youth, right? Anything Drake does is going to be hot, right? So I think, you know, in a way to look at it, Drake doesn't have to keep up with the Jones if he sets the standard. If Drake right now did a concept album, like for example, think about The Weeknd. The Weeknd could do, like, you know, for a while he was doing this like alternative, like, you know, almost like futuristic, but reminiscence of some old shit music. Then he says he's going to do Dawn FM, which is almost like a classic 70s or 80s album, right? Tory Lanez, of course, did Alone at Prom. Like that kind of set the wave. Yo, throwback albums, nostalgia shit is back in style. Why? The Weeknd says it's in style. You get what I mean? And we've always seen in the history of musicians is that the top guy could tell you what's going on. Jay-Z infamously said that he killed autotune. He said, nah, that shit ain't cool no more. It's over. So I think people are also looking at Drake to say, Drake, yes, there is a new wave of music, but you're so lit, you don't have to follow that new wave of music. You could do exactly the opposite or do anything you want, and that's going to be the wave, right? I'll play a little bit more of it, and then we're going to, let me pull up the
I'm
Drake
agreeing with Ice.
response.
But when J. Cole comes in that booth and y'all was there together, that's your motivation. Mm-hmm. You don't go Marlene, Darlene, Charlene, Felicia. I don't give a fuck.
And that's why I have a problem.
That's where your motivation comes from.
Look, hold on.
And
that's
I'm
why-
a rapper.
Y'all,
Right.
y'all can't do that and then tell me that y'all the Spider-Man meme. Because no, it wasn't.
Who said that?
Whoever said it.
That's my problem. That's my problem. Cole is right there, but you won't kill this nigga.
All right,
You
all right,
still
all right. Okay, enough is enough. So let me play what Drake responded to.
That's my
Here we go.
Yo,
here we go,
dog,
here we go,
I
here
had
we go.
this is like Yachty rapping. This is like he rapping for the children. And that's my yo, dog, I had to look up how old this was when I finished listening to the album.
Mm-hmm.
You are 36. Your birthday is in 20 days. I Googled that too. You will be 37 years old. Get the away from some of these younger niggas and stop these 25-year-olds.
That was personal.
I'm listening to the album. Yo, you're a 37-year-old billionaire. I get it that you appeal to the world. Loving
They wanna
about
stay
Cole.
young.
Like, my shit is happening in reverse. Like, with Cole, he used to rap about kid shit. I'm a grown-ass, like, real Jersey City. I don't want to hear how you lost your virginity, and then he started to grow up. And then the rapping sounded
rapping
like
grew
an
up.
adult rapping. I'm want to hear adult Drake rapping for adult people.
No.
Okay. So he said that. Obviously, I played the longer version. Now you could hear the longer version as well. And then Drake hopped in my comment section, and you can see it here. But we're going to go to the full version where I reposted. Here's the comment. So we're going to read
This
what Drake
this
said.
is like Yachty rapping.
So he said, Joe, you have failed at music. You left it behind to do what you're doing now. You left it behind to do what you're doing in this clip because this is what actually pays your bills. For any artist watching this, just remember you are watching a failure giving their opinion on his idea of a recipe for success. A quitter giving their opinion on how to achieve longevity. You switch careers because the things that pop into your brain had you broke, living check to check, and the raps you wrote had 450 men showing up to your shows in Dusty and Nietzsche jeans to screw up their face to Mood Music 29 and pretend you're the GOAT. Please, any artist that's doing what they feel is right, don't let these opinions affect your mindset after the fact. This guy is the poster child of frustration and surrendering. You're retired and we never hung up your jersey and we don't remember your number. We know you for doing this. You withdrew from rap not cause you accomplished all you need to. It's cause it wasn't working for you. I never want anybody in this generation to think that the whole everybody's entitled to an opinion is a real thing. This is a man projecting his own self-hate on the fact that I did and continue to do everything he wanted to do for himself. If you need to put it in simpler terms, I own a 767. He owns a modest house in the 973. And he flies first class on special occasions. Now, Jesus Christ, that last line hits. If you need to put it in simpler terms, I own a 767. And he owns a modest house in 973. Okay. Now, let me be honest with you. Y'all know Drake's my favorite rapper. I still think what Joe said was fair. Joe didn't say it was trash. This album ain't nothing near trash. Okay? But is it classic? I don't know. Now, is there a overarching theme? If you listen to it a few times, could you tell that Drake was trying to keep it new, keep it young? Abso-fucking-lutely. Could you hear Yachty's influence? Abso-fucking-lutely. Right? If you're used to nostalgic Drake, hoping that you're going to get another Take Care, which I think the majority of Drake's core fan base, like which I am, once we got Take Care and then we got Nothing Was the Same, we were always hoping for that next album that was going to be like that. That's why, Views sold over 1 million, right? Then we got Views. Then he drops More Life. You get what I mean? And we've always kind of yearned for that. And then he gave us Scorpion. And Scorpion was something that was a half rap, half this. So here's the thing. I don't know what the personal shit they got going on between them, Drake and Joe Budden. But what I can say is that I'm not here to comment about Joe Budden's career. I'm here to talk about my favorite artist. And my favorite artist is Drake. And if I had to comment on this album does feel a little bit different. It feels a little bit different. And I don't know, it feels unfamiliar. I'm going to be honest with you. Because what is usually the things that we relied on Drake for, I feel like it's not easily identified here. And this is why I keep going back to it. I'm listening. I'm like, maybe I'm missing some things, but this doesn't sound like the quintessential Drake project, just to be honest, right? I don't think what Joe said was out of bounds, but obviously, Drake said what he said. Joe did respond by saying, "You'll grow up sooner or later. Father Time is undefeated." And this exchange reminded me of one thing. I said, damn. is Drake at the point where he's either above criticism or he's perturbed by people critiquing him because of what they want him to do, right? Like, for example, the reason why I haven't really fully broken down this album is that I have a thought of what a Drake album should be, and he didn't create that. He created something else. But he's the artist, right? Now, if I go off some egotistical shit, be like, well, he's supposed to be giving me another Take Care, I'm going to say this album is trash, right? But now if I try to understand his artistic vision and rank it accordingly, even if I don't say it's excellent or classic, it's going to be a completely different rating scale. Do you get what I mean? So I'm wondering where Drake is at with that because, again, these days the interviews he rather do is with Khalid Presley. Does an interview with Bobby. He's more staying away from hip-hop media, and I've only heard him say disrespectful or dissing people who might be in hip-hop media. I think Drake is at the point where I don't think he gives a fuck about what someone in hip-hop might say about his album, which I think that's a scary place to be because Drake is always going to be number one. He's the biggest artist in the fucking world other than Taylor Swift. He's always going to be number one. But I'm wondering, do we get... I love Scorpion, by the way. Do we get another Scorpion? Do we get another Views? I think wishing for a Take Care or a Nothing Was the Same is like a long shot. But even if you're reading This Is Too Late, do we get one of those? Dusky says, yo, he does give a fuck. He typed it. No, I know he cares. Of course he cares. Like, and that's what I'm trying to say. I'm a little confused with Drake. I honestly am, and I'm a huge Drake fan. Because I'm going to be honest with you, no matter what Drake said about Joe here, like, he's not saying nothing that we don't know about Joe. Joe was never the biggest artist. We all clown him about it. Pump it up. He's not saying anything that no one's going to, like, you know, oh my God, like you said something new. Joe is more successful as a podcaster than he was as a musician. That is nothing new. I think this was Drake's way of invalidating his opinion because he didn't agree with his opinion. And this way was throwing Joe personally under the bus. And that to me was very interesting because I know the Drake that I know is that even if people are talking shit, I remember when Take Care came out and people were talking shit that first week, bro. He said nothing. A couple months later, everybody called it classic. That shit lived. Like, he was confident in that material. He wasn't defensive. He was confident in it. He let it live. It's the first time I've ever seen Drake seemingly defensive. Like, whether it's Charlamagne saying something or, like, I've never seen a defensive Drake. And some might even say, and probably he would say if he sees this, I know he will. Well, nah, it's not me being defensive. Niggas is talking shit. I'm talking right back to him. But I guess I'm going off what I've seen him done before. I've seen him put the music out and he always let the music talk. This was interesting. Thank you guys for a bunch of donations. I see you guys going crazy on YouTube. Let me read a bunch of these things. The Magician 206, he says Q Miller carried Drake's career. You're wrong. Patrick, whatever, he says, yo, say it with your chest. The album was mid as fuck. I can't really say anything about the album yet till it really lives with me for a few more days. But I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not running home about it. And I'm gonna be honest with you, again, there's a moment I'm listening to the album and I start to think, is it me or is it Drake? I don't know if you've ever had that moment. I started listening to the music and I was like, damn, am I too stuck in my ways to always want this Drake? that I can't embrace that he's trying to create his new wave and maybe set forth a wave or a pocket that he could be in for the next 5 years. So I'm listening, I'm like, damn. I'm like, yo, I've been judging this guy's career off. Like, you know, we judge Drake's career off his best album, right? Which a lot of people say is Take Care. Some may say it's Nothing Was the Same. But you judge every project, you kind of judges off of that. Views was supposed to be the runner-up or like the follow-up. Scorpion, people are, hey, did he rap enough? Did he sing enough? Chat nigga is spamming. He said, yo, this is a top 5 Drake album, every song hit. No, it ain't. I'm sorry. No, it ain't. I'll pull up this track list and I'll talk about it right now. We're gonna speak like men, okay? Everybody know ain't nobody like Drake more than me. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like, unfortunately, again, with all due respect to Yachty, Yachty's very contemporary and he's very new. And I think, you know, when they synchronize and create Jumbotron shit popping, I like that. But some of these flows, I was just like, so let me open the album. Virginia Beach. And this one I'm going to say that Joe was keeping it very fair, if you ask me. Yeah, I was expecting rapping. And this is why I haven't ranked it yet, because I expected rap and he was singing. I was expecting rap and he was singing a bunch. By the way, it's a good track, though. The Amen track's pretty decent track, too. I'm going to be honest with you, though. Here's the thing, and this is where my first critique comes in. This Drake and 21 Savage song is the weakest Drake and 21 Savage song I've ever heard. I'm being very honest with you. It's the weakest Drake and 21 Savage song. And by the way, I remember there was a time when, you know, when I heard Drake on 5 a.m. in Toronto, and he said, not every song sound like Drake featuring Drake. I used to bask and love the fact that Drake's album was primarily a unique sound that was his sound, not him going into the world of other people. Drake would get on your song and do a feature and fuck it up and have the best verse, but when it came to his album, he would have sonically a completely unique sound created by him and 40. When I hear the song that he has with Yeet, this sounds like a Yeet song. The beat is a Yeet beat. It sounds like a Yeet song, I'm sorry to say. Do you get what I'm saying? This 21 Savage song, like, shit, I didn't even, you know, 21 my mans, me and him be texting back and forth. I gotta tell him this too. Savage, I don't know if you're watching now. This is the weakest song you have done with Drake. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is the weakest one. I love Fair Heights. Fair Heights is fire. We're gonna get to some of the stuff he said about Rihanna. Daylight is dope too. First Person Shooter, amazing song. Again, you know, this is why when I talk about Drake having hip-hop conversations, yo, the guy is one of the best ever. You know how I said I yearn to see him in the, like, you know, documentary of how he creates all this magic? But, like, the reason why we want Drake to have an interview with a hip-hop platform, not just like Bobby Althoff, is that we kind of want to understand, how do you even approach a song, dog? Like, you're in there with a sniper, J. Cole. He's rapping about, like, yo, y'all started your own league, you K. Dot and Aubrey. Like, come on. Or him, K. Dot and Aubrey. Like, you know, this song, I thought he was going to smoke J. Cole for the ages. And it was a little different. I would love to hear his mindset about it. Because, you know, like, for example, I think I heard Joe describe it. Joe, according to Joe, it was just like, yeah, that nigga just couldn't keep up. I don't think for a second Drake can't keep up, even though you could make an argument and say maybe Drake is just fucking a little bit lyrically out of shape, because who is he rapping with these days? He's rapping with Dirk. He's rapping with Yachty. Like, I mean, with all due respect, like, you don't have to do a Secret Recipe J. Cole verse for that, right? Okay, this Yeet song sound like a Yeet song. Let's see how this shit sound right here. Oh, I can't. I gotta play it on this computer. Anyway, the Slime You Out joint, I've always thought it was good and cool. Yeah. Bahama Promises, I love Tried Our Best. Tried Our Best is fire. And this is where I'm saying I agree somewhat with Joe on some of the things he's saying, because honestly, I think this album would be reflecting better if this was lesser songs. It's 23 songs, and some of these songs are redundant. I'm going to be honest with you. Another Late Night with Yachty, this could have been on Yachty's project. Rich Baby Daddy, I felt like it was almost like, you know how he did Nice for What with the City Girls? This was a pretty good attempt. I like this Baby Daddy song. Gently with Bad Bunny, like, I have severe critiques about this. It feels like him. This is what I really think about the song. It feels like him and 40 went to Google Translate and took like a Spanish beat and then made up like a couple of bars and sent it to Bad Bunny and said, you fill in the blank. If you're going to do a Spanish song, Bad Bunny's supposed to send you his hottest shit. And you're supposed to fit in like the first verse or whatever the case is to sound good. This sounded horrible. Coming off MIA with Drake and Bad Bunny, yo, bro, I thought I was going to be salsa dancing and fucking bachata in for the next 3 years. This was horrible. You remember, I kept being hyped. I was geeked. Yo, we got Aubrey and Benito. Yo, I listened to this. I'm like, yo, how did they fumble this? I love all parties in all the parties with Chief Keef. This fire. I love this. Members only. I love this too. By the way, we also got to talk about the Exodus, which I still don't like. And he's never spoken on it, and I've never asked him about it personally and like privately. But I still don't like him making loose references. And someone could say like, well, you never said no names or whatever. But I felt like he talked about X on his album. I felt like he talked about Pusha T on his album. I felt like he talked about Rihanna and A$AP Rocky on his album. So currently, if you ask me about like this whole album right now, I do think there's some redundant tracks. Also, I'm going to be honest with you. Remember, what changed with the Drake albums we love, if you go back, right? If you go back and you search up, hold on, sorry, chat. If you go back and you search up Nothing Was the Same. And by the way, keep in mind, this was a 13-song album with 2 deluxe tracks, right? You go back, there ain't no features really jumping off there's no features jumping off the fucking page. You know when Drake started, like really, I feel like Drake started feature farming. It started with More Life, but that was acceptable because he said this is a radio show. Before then, I could never hear Drake drop a song like Portland, ever. Drake's album was like a different sound that always brought you into a different world. Do you get what I mean? But if you look at this project, all the big artists at that time, with the exception, obviously, of Jay-Z. Jay-Z, he does do Pound Cake too with Jay-Z. And by the way, these are bonus tracks, the 2 Chainz and whatever. But he's not just littering a bunch of features to get us impressed. When I look at this album, 21 Savage, J. Cole, SZA, I won't count Party Next Door. That's like his guy he works with. I don't even count Chief Keef. We see SZA again, Sexy Red, Lil Yachty. I don't know, man. So before I even go further, Another thing I was thinking about, and I'm gonna be honest, is, again, I listened to that Joe review and it was very on point. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not no liar, and I know y'all know I love Drake, but I'm gonna keep it 100 too. I'm gonna have a conversation with Kevin Durant, who happened to be the A&R for this project. Kevin Durant, look, for all the dogs, Drake Wiki. The executive producer. Oh shit! You know, I'm just gonna go to my page because he actually put it up. Actually, it might be on his page still. Champagne Poppy. Here we go. Is it this? Nah. Right here. Executive producers. Blah blah blah. You're going to see Kevin Durant's name at the A&R stage. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've debated hip-hop with Kevin Durant so many times. Kevin Durant is a hip-hop head. He's one of those guys who, like, he's a hip-hop head. I'm wondering, what the fuck did what impact or input did he have on this project? Because I think he would probably agree with me. It's a little bit too long. These features don't really do shit, right? Obviously, the J. Cole feature is amazing, but like most of these features don't do shit, and there isn't a cohesive sound among the entire project, or even a cohesive theme. And for someone like Kevin Durant, who I've had many conversations with, there ain't enough rapping. There ain't enough rapping. Anyway, so let's actually move on a little bit. All right. By the way, let me address the obvious. Do I think Drake fell off? No. I'm gonna be honest with you. And this is why I want him to have these hip-hop conversations. You don't got to interview with me, but somebody got to ask him, Drake, why did you feel the need to drop this project? Why now? Why drop it? But like, Drake, you could have taken your time. Why rush a project out now, then announce you're taking a year break? Why not push this project to the year break? Really take your time. You're off tour. You really could build and make this a fucking masterpiece and drop that. You dropped this pretty much mid-tour. Now you're announcing you're taking a break. Between this and your last album, you pretty much couldn't do too much living. So it's like, of course, is this contractual? Was it just a vibe? Like, honestly, never mind. Were you like, what was the inspiration? These are things that I would love to get into the mind of Drake. Because one thing I've realized about the people who seem to be around him, and Yachty, I'm including you in this. Y'all keep saying the same things, and we keep hearing the exact opposite. Yo, he's rapping the best we've ever heard him rap. Nigga, when did you start listening to Drake? Because I could play you a lot better raps that Drake has done. I played it for 12 hours straight. Yo, he's on a wave right now. Everything is fire. Okay, and I'm not knocking people's opinions, but I'm wondering if these same people around him now are saying to him, yo, Drake, nah, that ain't it. Nah, that ain't it. That ain't it, Drake. Yeah, that verse would be good for like so-and-so rapper, but you, Drake, nah, nigga, that ain't it. So I'm asking, because every time I hear everybody talk about him, it all sounds like it's the best shit in the world, but now we get to a place, and by the way, I do think one of the reasons Drake is a little bit defensive is because Drake is someone, even though I think media-wise, he's at an interesting point with media, I don't think he fucks with hip-hop media no more. I think he's gone, again, as I said, rather than care about the Elliot Wilsons, Joe Buddens, and Charlemagne's, he cares about the Kai Cenats, Speeds, and Aidens. You get what I mean? He cares about hey, is the newest person who's getting 400,000 viewers live, are they fucking with the new Drake? Is that the new hot thing, right? I think that's where his mind is. But I just got to see where the music is at, man. These are the questions I would want to ask him. You hear on the first track when he comes in singing, and there's a bunch of tracks on here that happen to be R&B-esque. You remember when we were going into this project and I was playing you them slaps? Did y'all hear any song on this project that sounded maybe in the realm of Days in the East, Fall for Your Type, Peak, Jaded? Anything as personal as Look What You Done? Anything as introspective as, but honest as Club Paradise, The Ride? So this is what I'm saying. Again, I don't know about Yachty. And Yachty, again, I'm pretty sure you'll see this. This ain't no disrespect to you. But I don't know if you a big enough Drake fan to really steer the ship. I'm going to keep it a bean with you, dog. Because if you said this was the best Drake verse you ever heard, we got to get you off the ship. We kicking you off the Titanic. As Drake fans, I will say this. If he thought this was the best Drake verses he ever heard, we're kicking him straight off the boat. We don't want... Little boat, get another boat. Get another boat. Get a whole nother boat, brother. Because if you're going to gas up my goat and tell him that this is the best shit he's ever rapped, no. Now, I'm all for experimentation, and he is experimenting a little bit with newer flows. Like, by the way, here's the thing, too. You know, Joe is a little bit super critical, but I'll say this to Joe in defense of Drake. And by the way, listen, I'm a fan of the music, man. Drake could not like me. Bro, you don't got to call me. You don't got to like me. I'm a fan of his fucking music. Y'all know that. I'm going to love it regardless, whether he likes me or not. So I'm going to speak from my heart. I do like when he updates his flow. I do like when he stays a bit current and he's a little trendy and still mainstream. You know why? Because if you remember how he was rapping back in, what year was that when everybody was rapping, yo, it's a parade, Macy's. Come on, man. Everybody was rapping like that. Big Sean, Ludacris, like, come on. Everybody was rapping like that. That's around the time he dropped, oh, you fancy, huh? Oh, you fancy, huh? Nails done, hair done, everything. Yeah. He had to update from that. Update. Yeah, get that flow up. Y'all know all the flows we start liking with Drake. We heard him on a bunch of them. If you're reading this, it's too late. Did you hear the pocket he got into on? 10 bands, 50 bands, 100 bands. My boy was floating and he was still barring it up. Let's talk about it. This is why he's the best. So all I'm gonna say, and I'm saying this to Kevin Durant and Yachty. If y'all supposed to be the epitome of Drake fans, y'all ain't big enough Drake fans to control this shit then. No, we gotta get y'all out of here. Let's get bigger Drake fans in there. Because, listen, I don't know how y'all feel about your other favorite rappers. I know Cardi fans feel like this about Cardi. Definitely. If you hear Cardi's album is executive produced or produced by or A&R by some nigga, and then you hear it and you be like, oh, this nigga don't know what we really want. If he think this is what we want, he don't know. Get him out of here. We gotta get both of them out of here. Cause if Akademiks came in, I'd be like, nah, we cutting half of this shit. Listen, what we finna talk about? What's the Drake album if we don't even know what we talking about? What's the Drake album if we don't know what we talking about? Let me bring you back to why I say he's the GOAT, and I stand on it constantly. You see when that motherfucking album opened up and he had his head in the fucking clouds and you heard that Tuscan leather, my nigga? He set the palette. This is where he was at in his life. That was what was on his mind. Even Views. The Young Money situation had pretty much gone through a lot of changes. I believe on Views, he starts the album off with Keep the Family Close. Am I wrong? You tell me if I'm wrong. All of my family, my friends. Come on now. That's where he was at. I knew what we were talking about. I watched him gain the confidence to ditch the Memphis and ditch the LA and the Atlanta or Houston and really say, yo, I'm from the 6. Wagwan Chaji. Yeah. Watch that. I like that. I watched the man bare his soul. Told us things we probably didn't even care to know. But things that were honest and things that made us connect with him more. I remember watching an interview of his when he said he didn't really tell his mom about a line he put on the album, but he couldn't because he wanted to be so honest. And he said he apologized in advance because she was going to find out at the time when the album came out. And I said, damn. This type of vulnerability and honesty and just so transparency on where he is in his life and what he thinks, that's the epitome of an artist using his music as therapy. And trust and believe, when you think about the greats in this world, you know, of course, it's a plus that this guy is amazing at rapping. Of course, it's a plus that he finds the amazing pockets when it comes to hooks. He's good at every fucking different facet when it comes to music. But it's his story. It's his story that connects. And he knows that shit too. It's the reason why if you go to his show, he starts the show off with, look what you've done. You go to the new Drake show, he starts it off with, look what you've done. He don't start it off with 0 to 100 real quick. He don't start it off with his verse on Versace. That ain't what it is. It's a story. I'm confused about this album because it seems directionless. I'm confused about it because it seems meaningless. And I'm confused about it because it felt like he was chasing, not leading. He's still amazing. Songs are still going to be great. But put it like this. Even listen to the music, I can't even call this an album. I don't call this I call this a mixtape. I call this a mixtape. I call Honestly Nevermind mixtape. I call CLB an album. I call Darkly Demos a mixtape. I call Scorpion an album. I call More Life mixtape. I call Views an album. Drake, I know, you know, I'm gonna show you one of the things, and I'm being super picky. So excuse me for that. You know, I'm not doing this out of anything but just an overzealous, like someone who loves the music. Who, bro, listen, like, bro, if rap had Pokemon cards, I got a card full of different versions of Drake that I'm gonna just keep throwing out there, and I want him to always be the best. I never, you know. And by the way, you know, I'm also in the thought of sometimes you need to get some shit off to evolve. Like, just like how Kanye needed to get off Yeezus, which I didn't like Yeezus at all, but he needed to get Yeezus off before he could even get to a project like The Life of Pablo. Sometimes you have to let the artist get it off. But I'm going to be honest with you. As I was reading this, and him and Joe have some history. I was actually taken aback. I've never seen Drake when arguing or critiquing or dissing somebody, especially somebody who's gave an opinion. Drake brought a lot of wealth into it. Like this line at the end, it says, yo, in simple terms, I own a 767, which is, by the way, is a cargo jet. He owns a modest house. And I was like, damn. When I saw this, I was like, damn. I think Drake is cool with me. I was like, is Drake open to even me criticizing him? Just saying, you know what? It's not like, by the way, again, I didn't think, Joe went a little personal with certain things, granted. But I do think there is, as great as Drake is the fucking greatest, but you could still critique him. And for a second when I was reading, I was like, you could be the GOAT and still be critiqued. I hope Drake isn't there mentally. Like, yo, I'm too good for y'all niggas. Y'all niggas can't even, I don't care what I put out, nigga. Y'all niggas can't talk about me no more. I'm hoping that's not where it's at. Somebody say he's going to go after me next? No, I don't think so. There was a defensiveness about this, and I don't know where that came from. And I think Drake is going to look back at this and realize that the space he's in mentally caused him to react like this. And by the way, I'm not saying he shouldn't react. Of course, I love when he reacts. But it didn't feel like he was reacting about the critique. It felt like he was just trying to shit on this nigga. Somebody says, Ak, you don't comment like this if you think the album's fire. That's not true. I thought Scorpion was absolutely fire. Scorpion's one of my favorite albums. I have critiques of Scorpion too. Yeah, but again, he's the artist, and obviously I try to be very fair and even keeled as when I try to do these reviews or I'm talking about shit like this, because I love his music, and you can't love some shit and just shit on somebody all the time. Like that's like, what are you, right? You're almost like a hater. Like, you love it, but you just shit on it all the time. So you got to be constructive in a sense, right? Every project, even if it's great, I would still have some critique about it. All right? Okay, cool. About it, no. I like that he responds to shit. I'm glad he actually responds to shit now. I just don't know where his mindset around these things come from. Somebody says, Ak, you hating because you ain't get that call? Come on, bro. Stop it, bro. Like, bro, I'm going to be jacking this album harder than anybody else, right? Like, I love the album. Well, I won't say I love the album yet. There's certain songs on that I love. I'm confused. Like, there's one song that I hear Drake on, and he has a flow like Yachty. And Yachty, I'm sorry, bro. I'm not like, again, by the way, I think Drake and Yachty are really cool. I think Drake also finds it offensive when people try to shit on him for his association with Yachty, and that's not what I'm trying to do. But there's a Yachty-esque flow on one of these songs, and as soon as Drake gets into it, like, it's just disgusted me, bro. It just disgusted me. I'm like, no, I don't want to hear this. You get what I mean? Like, because honestly, with all due respect, I'm like, yo, Drake is just too good for this. He's too good for this, dog. He's too good for this. You know what I mean? Somebody said, you jacking that fat D harder than anybody else. Pause, man. All right. Anyway, I say that to say I would love to have a qualitative conversation with Drake, hopefully publicly, but, privately as well. Like, I do see the fact that he's gone in pretty hard on hip-hop media personnel for their comments on him, and I don't think any of those people truly, I mean, obviously, maybe a little bit like they were being unfair, or maybe a little bit they were being personal, but I don't think them people was wilding like that, which, again, I keep saying Drake's at that fork in the road, and I think Drake at this point says, man, fuck that hip-hop media shit. And I think Drake these days, he looks at the reaction from whether streamers and other people, and to me, you're going to always have a Joe Budden, whether it's Joe saying it himself or people in that audience who feels like you have left them behind, right? I heard Joe he said, I don't like this Drake, right? Basically almost kind of trying to characterize what Drake is now as somebody who he is unfamiliar with. So it is what it is. Hey, speaking of some good shit, though, because we do got to get to some music that was on there. And by the way, a Drake album would not be complete if Drake wasn't like sneak dissing or violating a bunch of people. And, when I was listening to it, maybe I'm deaf, but like on first listen, I didn't get a lot of these joints, and I got it later on. Like, for example, this Rihanna joint was kind of like interesting. Oh, by the way, before I even get into that, did you see Birdman? Birdman just randomly jumped in the conversation, and he checked Charlemagne and Joe Budden. Look, he said, I think you mean good, and I respect you, even though we had a difference, but I respect you, Charlemagne, but respect Champagne Poppy. And that's Drake. Okay. Then he says to Joe, calm down, brother. You're not built for this real gangster shit. Yo, by the way, this is so random. You know why this is so random? Yo, you know what? Joe was commenting on Drake just singing. Like, he was not saying Drake is soft. Yo, Birdman just jumps out the window. You're not built for this gangster shit. Bruh, Birdman, we love you, brother. By the way, I actually have a couple interviews with Birdman I put out yet. Birdman, nobody was talking about gangster shit when they were talking about Drake's album. Like, we're just talking about, I haven't heard a hater comment on Drake's album yet. Also, the last thing I'm going to say about the album in totality before I break down this Rihanna shit is Joe, not Joe. I remember going into CLB and I said, what does a Drake album sound like if he doesn't have the motive? Like, his motivation for Scorpion, More Life, pretty much everything after Views, his motivation was that he was either in beef, people were saying he wasn't writing, and when he has a chip on his shoulder, trust me, my boy come out swinging, and he's amazing at that. When it's time of peace for Drake and he doesn't have like that nemesis or whatever the case is, I've always wondered because, throughout his early career, he told us about his life. But I think we almost know everything about his life at this point, right? So like there was a lot of times in his career that beef or controversy or people who have said stuff about him fueled him. But when everybody now is just kind of accepting him as the GOAT and pretty much there's nobody really beefing with Drake, is there? Like, come on, right? The content gets a little bit because now it's like, what are you going to talk about, right? Anyway,